Hello, I'm Hunter and welcome to Movie Mondays. Today for Movie Mondays, I'm going to be counting down my top 18 movies for 2018. This was such a good year for film, I had to leave some movies I really liked off the list. So without any further ado, let's get started. I'm going to first rattle off some honorable mentions. Any other year, these honorable mentions would have made my list. I really enjoyed them, but they just barely missed it this year. I have Solo, which I thought was a really fun Star Wars movie, Aquaman and Bumblebee. All three of those films really did what they should have done for their franchises. They provided a fun entry that provided a little life in franchises that I feel like a lot of people have been down on a lot lately. I have two music films. I have Bohemian Rhapsody and I have Hearts Beat Loud. One's a big film, Freddie Mercury. I love Rami Malek's performance, possibly my favorite performance of the year. But the movie around him just isn't quite as good as his performance. And Hearts Beat Loud is a great little music indie that y'all should seek out. And the last two I have are Creed 2 and Halloween, continuations of two of my all-time favorite franchises that just barely made the list, two of the most fun movie-going experiences I had. Finally to the list. At number 18, I have Isle of Dogs. Now this film was directed by Wes Anderson and has his perfect style, everything's so detailed and articulate, and I really like the story also about this boy and his connection with a dog, and just everything that happened, I very much enjoyed it. At number 17, we have a big blockbuster, Ready Player One. Some people were down on this film, and I don't understand that. This film was so much fun. I sat there with a smile on my face, just eating popcorn. The references were great, but I didn't think they overdid it like a lot of people did. I thought they used them perfectly. This has one of my favorite sequences in the year. The Shining sequence is fantastic. Just a really fun popcorn movie. At number 16, a real surprise for me is That's a Simple Favor. This is a murder mystery thriller directed by Paul Feig, who usually does these female-led comedies, and this is a female-led murder thriller with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick, both of which extremely impressed me in their performances in this movie. I was genuinely shocked by how much I enjoyed it and by the conclusion. At number 15, I have Hereditary, by far the scariest movie I've seen in years. This movie had me thinking about it for days following. Toni Collette in this movie is electric. She should win the Oscar for Best Actress, but she won't even get nominated, which is a travesty. At number 14, I have one of the most interesting movies in the year, and that's Three Identical Strangers. This documentary tells a true story of three men who meet when they're college age, who are identical triplets, and they've never known each other. And as the movie comes on, you get deeper and deeper into the story, and you find out this dark root at the core, which is scary, and these humans and what was happening. It's a great story. I highly suggest you watch it. At number 13, I have Incredibles 2. Incredibles is one of my favorite Pixar movies. Brad Bird is one of my favorite directors, and so I was a little nervous that Incredibles 2 couldn't reach the bounds of the first one, but I think it completely does. Focusing more on Mrs. Incredible this time, I think it's a perfect change from the first one that focused more on Mr. Incredible, and I thought it was just an enjoyable movie. It's one of my favorite kids' movies of the year. At number 12, I have Green Book. Now, this film is a great buddy film between Viggo Mortensen's Italian mobster and Mahershala Ali's proper African pianist, and they just have such this oddball friendship that forms throughout the journey through the Deep South. And I think the themes this movie explores, while they don't get as deep or as meaningful as some of the other films that are a little bit higher on my list, I think it's important that we touch on those issues. And I think the way they did it in a fun and light manner is going to be a little bit different and provided it to be a little bit more enjoyable. At number 11, I have A Star is Born. Now, this is the movie, Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga. You've heard all about it. It stands up to that hype. This film is fantastic. I was not impressed by the trailers, and I remember going into this movie and being floored by what Bradley Cooper is able to accomplish, not only as an actor, but mostly as a director. That's where he really impressed me with this movie. Now on to my top 10. At number 10, we have Can You Ever Forgive Me? Talk about a movie that shocked me. This is a Melissa McCarthy movie, who I usually rip on this channel, and I thought she was fantastic. Great performance, and also Richard E. Grant as her best friend in the movie delivers one of my other favorite performances of the year. Set in New York in the 90s. It's got this great atmospheric feel to it. It's a great courtroom film. I really enjoyed this. At number 9, I have The Old Man and the Gun. I love David Lowery, if you know my love of the film A Ghost Story, and this is his next follow-up starring Robert Redford. It's a very different movie than this one. This one's way more straightforward, and I just found myself sitting in the theater so charmed. This is such a pleasant, peaceful movie that tells a beautiful story about this man that's committing these crimes, but he's just so likable. And Robert Redford plays that part perfectly. At number 8, no pun intended, I have 8th Grade. Talk about an uncomfortable movie. This movie is thoroughly uncomfortable. Elsie Fisher perfectly captures 8th Grade. And Bo Burnham, for his first directorial debut, it was just amazing what he was able to accomplish. The comedy in this movie is funny, but the drama, this has the most uncomfortable scene of the year in it. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In the car, it's terrifying, but then turns around and very next scene, you have one of the funniest scenes of the year with the Chicken Nugget Kid. A great movie. At number 7, I have the worldwide phenomenon, Black Panther. What more can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said by me? I saw this movie 4 times in the theaters, more than I saw any other movie this year. I loved it completely. Killmonger was right, Wakanda forever. At number 6, I have First Man. When I saw this movie in IMAX, I was utterly floored. This is another film like A Star is Born that I was not impressed by the trailer, but it stars my favorite working actor, Ryan Gosling, and my favorite director, Damien Chazelle. And so I had high expectations, and it definitely met them. The final sequence of this movie, a lot of people talk about Bohemian Rhapsody's Live Aid scene. I think this movie has the better closing with their final landing on the moon. What it's able to accomplish, especially if you see it in that IMAX screen, completely floored me. And the Justin Hurwitz score coming in, and the emotion Neil Armstrong, Ryan Gosling is able to convey, beautiful. At number 5, I have the most beautiful movie of the year, and that is If Beale Street Could Talk. I liked Barry Jenkins' first film, Moonlight, but this film completely evolves his style. I thought our 2 leads, Stephen James and especially Kiki Lang, did a beautiful job portraying this story, this classic James Baldwin written story. And I just thought all the actors did a great job just fleshing out this role. It felt so fresh and natural. And although it was set in a period, it feels like it could be applied today. The way they dealt with their themes of racism and police violence were so topical to today, but they weren't heavy-handed. They're not beating you over the head with facts. It's just beautiful and poetic, and I thoroughly enjoyed this film. The top 4, these 4 were tough to place in an order, but at number 4, I have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I had high expectations for this movie, and it met them. Miles Morales is one of my favorite characters. I think he is the best Spider-Man, controversial opinion. But the way Shamik Moore voices the character, the way all the directors do, this film is animated. It looks like you're reading a comic book, watching it, and it's just amazing. The entire voice cast, Jake Johnson, John Mulaney, Haley Steinfeld, Shamik Moore, Brian Tyree Henry, all do a great job fleshing out their characters. I love Into the Spider-Verse. And number 3, I have Anna and the Apocalypse. This is a tiny film that I barely heard about and went to go see. It is a Christmas horror teen zombie musical. And if that sounds like it's up your alley, this film is completely up your alley. The songs in this movie will stick in your head for weeks to come. I love the story. I don't know if there was a movie I had more fun in this year. I sat with a smile from beginning to ear. I laughed so hard. I was tapping my foot along to the songs. And this movie, if you think it's not gonna pull punches at the end, it completely doesn't pull punches. It kills off characters. It goes for it at the end. It does not have a completely happy ending. It's not your typical Hollywood ending. I loved Anna and the Apocalypse. Now my top 2, if you know me, these 2 have been my top 2 for a long time, ever since I saw them. And my number 2 is Won't You Be My Neighbor. This is the Mr. Rogers documentary, and I could talk about this for a lot longer, but this movie just deeply touched me. I remember going to see it, and I was really tired, and it kept me wide awake through the whole thing. This is a great man who lived such a good life, and I think we should all aspire to be more like him. He just lived as such, just spreading kindness and positivity, which are things we so need right now. And I think this is a very important movie for everyone to see due to the message that it conveys. And my number 1, no shock to anyone, is Avengers Infinity War. I know it's not the super popular Oscar choice. It's not going to win Best Picture, although it should. But I can't tell you, it's the best movie of the year. I saw it 3 times in the theater, and every time the moments hit, Thor in Wakanda, Captain America showing up for the first time, that ending. No other movie this entire year has a word that now completely means something different due to the film. The snap is now a phrase. If you say the snap, people know what you mean due to this film. That's amazing in of itself. But just, this movie is the culmination of 20 years, not 20 years, 20 films, 10 years of Marvel movies. And I've loved so many of them. Captain America, The First Avenger was my favorite until this film, I think, because this movie just has everything you love about all the characters. Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, the Guardians, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. It has everything you could ever want in a Marvel movie and just blew me away completely. Endgame, my expectations are high. All right, thank you so much for tuning in to my top 18 films of 2018. There's so many more films I could have named that I enjoyed this year. I enjoyed BlacKkKlansman and Searching and Mary Poppins and even Vice. It just tons of other movies that came out this year. Love, Simon and Game Night are two great ones. It was a great year for film, everybody. I can't wait for 2019.